Today is September 16th,
September
right?
16th, 2020.
2020. And we're here with our first wine, cheese, and chit chat session with Amy Rich in SA.
Yep. My name is Emmy Dancer.
My name is Rich Dancer. And this is how we unwind and catch up on our day. So what's the basic premise behind this? Like when we started out.
Why are we starting podcasts?
Yeah, well, the podcast and then this particular like series of podcasts, because I know we've got a few. We've got some where we're going to talk about the stuff that led to us going into home ownership, this counsel, the marriage counseling. But this one is just us chilling, right? Like after a long day of work.
Well, yeah, after a long day of work, I gotta tell you, it feels good to take off my mask.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
I was when you called earlier, I was wondering about that. So you keep that thing on pretty much the whole day.
Most of the time, unless I gotta eat. But yeah, I was out of breath today. I don't know if it's just I'm out of shape, but yeah, it feels good. And I realize how we take advantage of not having to wear a mask. But that's how it is right now.
That's how it is right now. And well, y'all were moving too today, right? Like switching offices.
Yeah.
So probably has something to do with it.
I was just looking at it as it's a way for me to get active today. So yeah.
Well, y'all move around quite a bit up there in general, even without the moving, don't you? Like going from the front to the back, and
it can be. Mm-hmm. It was this morning, really early morning, but then after that, it was really slow. So.
Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff.
So you were asking earlier the question why we're doing this. Well, personally, I thought we should talk about how. Well, I was looking at, being Asian myself. I was looking for a couple that's somebody that we can relate to. Mm-hmm. And it was really difficult. I probably didn't do enough research anyway, but I've seen like let me see.
Because representation does matter.
Well, yeah, that's what it was. Mm-hmm. So I was looking for one that we both can relate to, and man, correct me if I'm wrong, but I couldn't find one, mm-hmm. or I wasn't looking enough. So I thought, well, why don't we start one? And you wanted to talk about this podcast is really an outlet for us too, in a way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To talk about.
It's kind of cathartic, probably for us.
Yeah. So I thought this was interesting. I guess there's probably YouTube videos they can find of like Filipino wife and African descent husband, and what they deal with. But I thought, well, maybe we can be one of the first, or if there's not one yet, maybe we'll follow that whoever that started one. So
yeah, I didn't see one either. Like after you mentioned it, because it's 2020. It's not like it's 1960, but there's still some stuff that, some, I guess, issues, especially with the racial climate that's going on now, and just like people starting to recognize some of the discrepancies that we have, within ethnicity, and then, towards each other's ethnicities, and even within our own cultures. Mm-hmm. So, just especially raising kids that are multi-ethnic. Yeah. And just, I guess, navigating life, together, embracing each other's culture, learning more about each other. So that's like a whole different dynamic that you throw in on top of the just normal stuff that you have being two grown people that move in together. Even if you weren't from, different ethnicities, that alone is enough to, that's enough of a challenge. Mm-hmm. Just, especially with us, we were into our 30s, like our early 30s when we met.
Yeah, I was 31 years old.
31, I was 33. I just turned 33.
Yeah.
And so we'd gone pretty much, our adult lives, you know, doing our own thing. And so now it's two grown, strong-willed people living together under one roof. And it was interesting. It was an interesting first start, but from the beginning, we had our minds made that it was us against the world, and we weren't gonna ever go away from that. So the rest of it was just a matter of getting to know each other. And I'm hopefully that's how it is for all married couples. Like they'll take that mindset of us against the world, um, you know, regardless of ethnicity. But then on top of that, we've got to learn each other's cultures and get to understand each other on a because we're not just roommates. You're someone that we're spending the rest of our lives together.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd come across that post. It was from like the first year we were together. Not we hadn't even been together for a year, and I think I told it to you, and then you posted it, and it said something like, "Love, true love, is learning the other person's song and singing it for them when they've forgotten how to sing it for themselves." And unless we're willing to learn, about each other, even beyond what's comfortable for us or what comes natural, then how could we do that? Especially in terms of like something as important as ethnicity. So I don't know. Like you can tell me what you think about this, but a lot of times when I see some couples and they're from different ethnic backgrounds, me personally, I've never been one to like try to make fun of your like poke fun of your background or like and I've seen that sometimes where people just kind of poke fun of each other's background, and then you ask them, have you learned the language or have you learned much about the culture? And they're like, nah, I don't care to learn about that. Um, you know, to me, like if you're in it, if you're married, it seems like that would be one of the first things you try to do is just, learn language, learn culture,
Yeah.
get an understanding. What do you feel about that?
Well, I definitely. I mean, we met and everything kind of went fast. We ended up having a daughter, and yeah, like learning culture, and one of the main things that we probably will talk about later on, and we can kind of bring it up, is hair culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is how we're gonna raise our daughter when she's part you and part me, and she's her own person.
Right.
And definitely that's one of the topic we're gonna talk about later on, because that was a big thing back last year, right? Last year,
Oh yeah.
when she
With
started
that.
school.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I think that's the reason why I wanted to I'm learning still. Think he probably had me, not had me, but just learning your culture, and then still learning my culture, because I moved here when I was 13, so the culture I learned was from back in the 90s, so it's definitely different. And then learning another person's culture,
Yeah.
American at that too. Not just your ancestors, but being American. And I've lived here longer than I've lived here. Lived in the Philippines, so definitely it's still learning process for me.
Yeah.
And then how to raise our daughter, how to raise our son. How we saw each other, if we saw each other eye to eye, or how such thing as, are we gonna teach our son how to behave around cops, which I've never had to ask my mom how to deal with that. It's just something that, not even something you learn. You don't ask people, how am I supposed to act around cops?
Right.
Do I fear them? Do I, and then Olivia.
It was never a conversation that you really had to
Right.
have.
I never had to deal with that. So, so I was just going with what I know. So, an example with Joseph, like, oh, I saw this in one of the TV shows that I watch, and this is what they're doing. And then, you said on one of your videos that you recorded, like, I'm not going to teach my son that, because,
Yeah.
Why?
It's got to go away. I don't want to change my son to fit the system. I'd rather change the
Right.
system, do what we can to change the system to fit him,
Right.
to fit all the kids, black and brown children in this country shouldn't have to be something exceptional just for the sake of living. I mean, for sure, they should strive for excellence just because it's their personal goal, but it shouldn't be a prerequisite for staying alive. You know, you shouldn't have to be, you should be able to make mistakes, not willfully and not continuously, but you should be able to learn without risk of losing your life over learning a lesson.
The first time I got pulled over was by a cop in a bike, and my inspection sticker was expired. I was going to school, college, and he pulled me over and gave me a citation. And I remember calling my mom crying because, I've never been pulled over before. And it's almost embarrassing because I got pulled over. If somebody asks you what happened, well, I got pulled over. It was a cop in a bike, and it's like really that you were crying over that. And I remember calling my mom. I was 18 years old. That was my first time getting pulled over. Wow. I didn't really start driving until I was 17, 18 years old. That's why. So I got pulled over, and I called her, and I told her I got pulled over, and then she's trying to calm me down, but we never really had any conversations like if you get pulled over. I guess it's more of common sense anyway. You have common sense, yes, but for you to add, you got to make sure that raise your hand or put your hands up.
Right.
None of that. They don't like at all. I never had to say, I never had to ask, hey mom, how would I deal with a cop? We were taught you respect somebody who's older. I mean, I didn't really think of like a cop being older than, I'm pretty sure I was 18, so the cop was probably older than me, of course. But yeah, I never had to ask my mom, sit down with her or anything like that, or in passing, like, hey mom, how do I act around cops if I get pulled over? I mean, that's where I was.
But, I mean, that's it's a little bit different for me because my mom was in law enforcement. So my interactions early on with police officers was like that was family, because there were officers that if she was working overnight and her shift wasn't over in time to take me to school, then I called him uncle. I'm not gonna put names out there because I don't even know if they were supposed to do that. They're still, so I'm not, but he would show up in the squad car in front of my house, and I'd go out, get in the car, and get dropped off at school. Did you ride in the back or? Nah, I was in the front seat.
Nice.
Yeah, front seat. So I'm showing up to school, getting out of a cop car, out of a squad car. People are looking like, what's going on here, Yeah. So it's, but then so we grew up just with thinking police officers were family. So my early interactions with them were great. And then you learn later on in life that not everyone has that same experience. And I've had some situations myself, just outside of West Texas where, no one knows or cares that my mom's a cop. In Mississippi, I remember driving through and just getting pulled over in the middle of the night. And that was like my first time passing through Mississippi in the first place. So all I saw was like movies like Mississippi Burning and like, just hearing about med grabbers, like that's, and just in general, how horrible Mississippi had been for African descent people. So, and it was at the middle of the night that I got pulled over. And so it was just like kind of a nerve-wracking experience. And my cousin, if she ever hears this, we had just dropped off one of my friends. Interesting story about how he missed his flight. Long story short, don't go to Pat O'Brien's the night before your flight is taken off. So he ended up having to stay a week in San Antonio, more than he had planned. And we were just going to drop him off on our way to visit our friend and our cousin in Jacksonville. So me and my cousin were on our way. My friend was Rod was still in town, so he just rode along with us, and we dropped him off in Mississippi. And in the middle of the night, I saw the red and blue lights flashing, and it was something as simple as, I think he said, I was in the passing lane for too long. and she pretended to be asleep. My cousin did the whole time. I was like, I didn't wake her up because I didn't want her to get nervous, and so I just she slept through the entire encounter, or so I thought. But then later on, I asked her about that. I was like, we got pulled over, in Mississippi, and she said, I know. And I was like, how do you know? I thought you were asleep. She said, no, I was just pretending to be asleep. I didn't want to deal with that situation. So, it's a stigma. Like the older you get, the more you realize it's kind of a stigma in the back of your mind. Like you're not necessarily safe. The police, some people feel that the police are not there to protect them. They feel actually more nervous around the police. Whereas other cultures, like you were saying, I think feel more like when the cops get here, everything's going to be okay. You know, but I know all that to say, I know we bumped heads at times over how we approach the kids. Not so much with that. I think we were both on the same page about, Joseph and teaching him about police officers and how the system is. But with the hair thing with Olivia, we had bumped heads a little. Or I think we're still learning about communication, especially me.
That time, yeah.
And I probably could have approached that in a better way. But what I respect is that we took it in strides. You're not a pushover. You have your temper when you want to, and so we had, that came to a head. But we still, when we cooled down and calmed down or whatnot, we both approached it like this is something that is important to us. So instead of our egos, constantly fighting each other on it, let's figure out what's the best way to approach it for, the solution of the issue, which is making sure that our daughter's hair, is done in a way that represents her well and, helps, bring pride to who she is as a person.
I think we have to probably say what happened. So,
yeah.
First, last year, her first time going to school. Well, not first day, but it was her pre-K, and I was looking for ways to do her hair, and I was doing that for a bit, and then after a while, I think it was one day that I straightened her hair out because I thought it would be. I think it was more practical for me. It'd be easier for me to. I've never straightened her hair before. I think we have actually when she was a baby. And then we
Cat Williams do. I remember that.
Huh?
Like the cat. She looked like a mix of Cat Williams and Prince. Yeah.
Because she had short curly hair, and then we straightened it, and then it looked like Cat Williams. I think we were calling her Cat Williams. Mm-hmm. And she's got longer hair after she was 4 years old, and I straightened it one morning because she didn't have to go to school till noon, and I think I remember you walking in the door from work. And she had her hair straight, and I think my mom was in town, and of course my mom was saying, "Oh, it looks so beautiful," and then I went to school, and then when she came back,
that was the part. I think if you hadn't mentioned it, I was like, as you were talking, that came back to me. That was the part that got to me. People in general, when the hair is curly, like, they might say, oh, you have nice hair, but when it's straight, that's when they have the tendency to say, oh, it's so beautiful that way, like kind of make a distinction that having straight hair or more Eurocentric hair.
Well, the funny thing is with mine, because I have very straight hair. I have thin, straight hair. And when I would curl my hair, people would say, oh, your hair looks beautiful. So it's something, I don't know if it's just
was that in the
female?
States or in the Philippines when you'd get
both?
that? Oh, okay.
No, actually, no. I'm sorry. Well, I had my hair curled when I was maybe 5 years old, 5 or 6. We called it perm. In the Philippines, perm means like you curled it, and so here, it was over here in the States.
Okay.
And people would compliment like, oh, it looks good, because I guess I would just have my hair straight, and then they would see that all the time. And then when you curl your hair, it's something different. So I don't know if it's like a type of phenomenon where people see opposite of it, or just, but, with that, I was already older, and I kind of figured already not that you do it for compliments, but, oh, if I curl my hair, I would feel good. Not because someone's going to say, oh, it looks good or it looks beautiful. But I think it's more like how you go back to when you first heard somebody says, "Oh, your hair looks pretty with curl like that," right? With
But
curls.
if I know what you're talking, if I know what you're the curls you're referring to, it's kind of the bigger curls, and those do make me feel a type of way.
Well,
But it's not
no,
like
so
kinky curls. Yours is like it's not like tightly wound
well,
curls.
yeah, of
Yours is more
course,
like
but Olivia's got beautiful hair. I mean, honestly, like she's going when she was a baby. I mean, your hair was just. I didn't even want to do anything to it because it was just the way it is. Other than make sure that it's not tangled or anything. But she finally, so I finally did straighten her hair when she came back from school. Her teacher had said, her PE teacher had said they looked beautiful. And it makes you wonder, like, well, did she say anything about her hair before?
Right,
Or is
right.
this the first time? But I never really asked Olivia.
That was the issue. I think that's the issue I had. Everyone was, complimenting her on having straight hair. Like what, like you said, what did they feel about it before? And I think the communication on my part was should have been just
I think,
recognizing that you had been like you've done such a great job with the hair, and I was like, I should have put it in context.
well,
Like you
I
always do a
hadn't
great
seen it
job
as
with their hair.
practicality, and I remember you showed me pictures of like this is the hair for her hair type. So I took it as like I wasn't trying to do it that way. Like I wasn't trying to try to insult anybody. And I understand, like I understand where you're coming from. It's like even I think you had shown me pictures of um would be called black hair, and I was thinking, like, is this age appropriate for her? Because and then you start looking for more of age appropriate for herself, for her hair type. And that's when we clashed, because I was thinking, oh, I was just doing for practicality, so I want to have when the next day it'd be easier for me. But I didn't think of the whole, well, what do you mean by easier to manage? Like, oh, straight hair, it means easier to manage. That's not really true. It just means that you don't have to do anything. But at the end of the day, I didn't put any kind of hair products in her hair. But at the end of the day, she still had to get her hair, get the frizz out and stuff like that the next day. So, yeah, definitely, didn't see that at first, but understand where where you're coming from. And then I think too with when she grows up, she's gonna need to look back. She's gonna look back into it where, oh, she only got compliment when she had straight hair, but not when she has her natural hair. So, yeah. And yeah, I understand. I do understand now.
Well, yeah, like I said, you do a phenomenal job with their hair, just like with our children in general. And so, I sometimes have a tendency to just go off on one aspect like one thing that I see. So, that's been a large part of the work for me, learning, with Mr. Heath, which we'll talk about that as well.
I
In
have
another
another
podcast.
issue I wanted to bring up. So I think I got tired of people saying that Joseph is a girl because of his long hair. So there was one time that I was like, well, let's cut it short. And you're like, why? He's got the locks, right? So I didn't think of it. It's like, yeah, that's true. He's got beautiful hair too. So I was thinking already like what people think about it. And that's always been my issue with how people think.
Yeah.
Cut.
Okay.
Sorry, I got a pee. I've been holding it, and that's a good discussion, babe.
Okay. I'm still recording.
Huh?
I'm still recording. We'll just pick back up where you.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
It's still recording the video, I think.
Strong. It's grown. Mm-hmm.
So about 20 minutes? Okay. When you hear this, Sawa, just want to let you know I love you. Mahal na mahal kita. Oh. Whew.
All right. Ready?
Yes. I finished my wine already.
Oh, that's good.
Oof. Oof.
That's good. That's pretty good. I'm impressed. But we've been talking a lot about the kids and about work and stuff on this one. And I remember, or just going back to the first question we asked, which was why this specific one, this specific series of Emmy enriched in essay, and I think it was more along the lines of documenting or just discussing how we unwind. Like we have, crazy lives. I think is a term people say, but I don't really think our life is crazy. I think we've done a pretty decent job and we've worked at it. We've worked really hard to like etch out, just carve out a life that we want. So our life is full of stuff that we want. So it's not crazy. It's just sometimes demanding, but all of it is what we fought to have, and all of it takes us closer to our goals. But in the middle of that, we still have to find time for each other while we're dedicating ourselves and dedicating our time and effort to building up our careers, to being good parents, to community work, to helping our parents, and being good, trying to be good friends and good loved ones towards your siblings and friends and family, things like that. At the center of all that, we still have to be strong. Our bond still has to be strong, and our cups, individually and as a couple, still has to fill up. And once it's full, and it's pouring over, then we can give to and help those around us. So this is just one of the ways of showing how important it is that we take time with each other, and just kind of documenting that. I think it's pretty cool. This is along with I guess the time with Mr. Heath or the time on trips or whatever. This is another opportunity for us to just get together and talk, and just spend time together. One of the prerequisites of these nights, of the wine, cheese, and chit chat nights, is that we both have to be not necessarily off the next day, but it's usually on a night when you've gotten out early enough to put the kids to bed and still have time before we need to go to bed. And have the day open the next day, so that we're not having to get up early. That, to me, I see that is kind of some of the prerequisites for this this session. Is that kind of aligned with what your thoughts and viewpoint on it?
We did talk about helping other couples. I think one of your cousins like thinking about lately. I'm not gonna name the cousins, of course.
There's a lot actually. There's at least two that have that mindset. If you're going where I think you're going with it.
Oh well, the one is like, I think if we're thinking of the same person, that you're in your 20s and you're just waiting for that right person. And then years later, she did find that person, but then she wants to go to the next step. And you know what? After that, it might be the next step. But the thing is, I think, I think when she first mentioned about, you know, being young and where is this person that God wants for her, and we were telling her like, you know, you just, it's coming for you. I mean,
Right.
whatever the desires of your heart, and that's what it was. So being a, I think it was saying testimonial for couples that
Yeah.
from what we went through or how we got here, where I was 31 years old when I met you, you were 33 when you met me. Um, Definitely did not see where it was going before we met, and we just kind of, you know, we had both had made, um, what do you call it? We prayed, and we both had, well, you had your list,
Yeah.
and then I, you know, talked to God that, you know, this is what He wanted for me. You know, I'm just gonna wait for that blessing, and that's what it was like. We had to tell. That's the thing that we want to tell. You know, couples that might be dealing with the same thing.
Yeah.
Not exactly the same thing, but these, you know, we understand, like something that we can say, we understand what you're going through,
Right.
where you feel like, you know, this, nothing's happening or nothing's going with your, nothing's going on with your life or something like that, and you're just kind of waiting for things to start. But oh boy, when it did start, it never stopped,
Yeah. It just
right?
kept rolling.
Which I'm really grateful for when you think about it. And sometimes you're thinking, when we have a day where we're not going to be going and just, you know, we're going all the time. And I think we did at one point, we had where we're just kind of, okay, we actually have a quiet time.
Yeah.
And even then we couldn't even enjoy it because we're thinking like, we're focused on, oh, we finally got a quiet time, let's do something.
Yeah.
Celebrate or something.
Yeah.
So
It's
yeah,
good to have
definitely.
in theory, but when
Yeah.
when it happens, it's
And of course, we're gonna put other couples that, you know, that have been together for a while.
yeah.
Couples that, you know, might be, well, us like going through marriage counseling, businesses that we want to talk to, or how we got here that helped us get to where we are right now.
Yep.
Home ownership, definitely, that's something we want to help other people, because even though we probably only dealt with it like a fraction of it,
Mm-hmm.
we definitely want to say how we got here, and it's not just by ourselves, it's
Oh,
with
yeah.
a lot of people that helped us
Most
through the whole
definitely.
thing.
Yep. I mean, there's at least, you know, a few different series, at least 3 different series that we're gonna have that, you know, that go into all of that. And I think this is a good one, you know, in terms of, you know, being something that young couples can look to. I think this is a good one that will put emphasis on just how important it is to create your joy in your relationship, and, you know, make sure that you prioritize quality time, and you know, with each other, because there are levels to it, you know. Starting from the beginning, when, like you said, I wrote the list down because I'd come out of a couple of relationships where I knew that wasn't where, you know, I wasn't operating in what God's purpose and plan for me was. So people had always talked about writing down a list, and I always thought it was hokey, you know. But at that point in time, I'd gone to, I think it's Bauer. I think it's Joel Bauer. He's a motivational speaker, and, you know, people feel how they feel about that. I mean, I feel how I feel about it. But at that particular one, I went to it, and he said something to the effect of, he said, I've got a foolproof plan that I guarantee you will work. So he laid this plan out and strategy out and it was for business. And he said, now that I've told you that, that's the good news, that I guarantee you it'll work. He said, let me tell you the bad news. It's only going to work for 10% of the people in this room. And so I'm thinking like, oh, maybe it's because you have to have a certain amount of money or connections. Like, I'm thinking worse. And he's lets people go mull over it for a little while. And then he says, let me tell you why it's only going to work for 10%. And he said, because with this, like anything else in life, even though it can help you, out of the 100% of the people in 9 out of 10 people in this room won't try what I told them to do. That's why it's only going to work for 10%. So I'm thinking in my mind, oh, so you're telling me something is going to work. All I have to do is do it. So that just taking action on it is the only thing that stands between me and what you guarantee is success. So I did that, that year is 2013. So I stepped out on that in business and it worked. And also had the same mindset, with everything else, with every other aspect of life. I was going to bring that to every other aspect and just say that, okay, if it doesn't happen, it's not going to be because I didn't try, So people kept telling me about it. And then finally this time I was like, all right, people say write a list. I've tried things my way. It's not working out. So let me go ahead and just do what they said and actually write this. So I wrote the list down, 10 things that you're looking for in your spouse. I prayed on it. And my prayer was like, God, I'm just going to focus on my career right now. I'm going to focus on the mission that I know you brought to me. And, committing this list to you. And, if I meet if you put someone in my life, it'll have to be someone that you send. Otherwise, I'm just, I'm focusing on what you put me here to do in terms of career. And that was, literally like 2 months later, that's when we met.
Well, I have a question about that. So is it just a matter of writing a list and then putting it aside and working on your stuff until that list becomes relevant again? Is that how that works? Or like you make a list and then you actually start working towards that list? Like say, you want to meet a spouse, or not spouse, you want to meet a person like that's on, that a standard of a person, right? Standard person, you have a standard. Mm-hmm. So do you work towards that, make sure that's the standard, that's the only kind of people you meet, or how does that work?
Honestly, I didn't even think back on the list. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna be honest with you, like I wrote that list out because I was done. I was like, I'm sorry, I'd rather be single for the rest of my life than get into another relationship that's just gonna take me far away from who I want to be, what I want to accomplish, or what purpose I'm supposed to be, and like it just basically mess things up for me and the person that I'm in the relationship with. So I wrote that list. I prayed over it. I saved it on the computer. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I showed you the file. Like I just saved it in this, this folder on the computer and didn't even go back to it. Like I literally forgotten about it. So I can't say that I was searching for anybody. Like that I had anything to do with it, other than committing it to God and trying to move the way He told me to move. That's all it was. And matter of fact, you know the story. Actually, if it would have been up to me, I would have sabotaged my own blessing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course, I do know.
Yeah.
So on my side, when you were writing your list, I was reading a book that my friend had recommended. It's called "When God Writes Your Love Story." And it has both sides of a married couple, how before they met. And, I was following that list really before even I read that book. But I think the one that really resonated with me was towards the end where, there was that's a really good book, by the way, because it talks about there was an example in the book when you say you go to a club and you're dancing with somebody, or you go to a club and you're dancing and you pretend that the person that God has set for you is there, they can see you but you can't see them. How would you feel? Like how would your significant, that person that's for you, how would they feel about you? Like, oh man, you're in a club doing this, and even before that I knew already that that's not who I was. So that's why I liked that book, because it was in tune with how I was living anyway. Mm-hmm. Made a promise when I was young. I think I was probably 6 years old. Me and my cousin made a promise to God that we were going to stay virgin until we're married. Mm-hmm. And that was a promise. So we were, I can only speak for myself, and I made that promise, and I followed it because that was the thing. Like, I don't even know how I knew. I don't know if I was maybe just remember for somebody who said like that was the thing that you can give to somebody, and that was part of you that you're giving somebody. So that was the thing in the book. But then the one that really resonated was the part when it says in the end, after all the stuff that they said, what you need to do to find that person that God wants for you, or you do all this stuff, and then it says in the end that made me sad. But then I thought, well, I'm ready for that if that's what He wants. That you might just have to be single. That might be that God wants for you, just to stay single. And at first I was kind of, man, after all this, and then you're gonna just keep me single. And I remember my friend that recommended the book, she said, God knows the desires of your heart. So if He knows that you're gonna meet somebody, not because you just want to meet somebody, because you have this idea of meeting someone.
Oh yeah, she's the homie, by the way. Shout outs to Akin Hipag, right? Yeah, shout out.
Yeah, she was recommended. A friend recommended her that book, and she passed it on to me. And I'm trying to pass on that book. Maybe I need to. You know what? I do need to pass that to your cousin. That's what I need to do, because it's already like 3 people that got passed on. I mean, I didn't get the book from Sheena. Oh, that's her name, by the way.
Yeah.
I didn't get the book from her, but I bought it myself, and then maybe that's what I need to do. So remind me to do that when we go to Christmas vacation and give that book to her, because
okay. Yeah.
She's your cousin's a woman of God, so right?
Yeah.
Woman of God. Yeah.
Yeah, she's doing excellence out there.
You know what? I'm not even gonna do that. I'm just gonna send it to her.
Okay.
This week. I'm gonna try to send it to her next week, actually, because she's been wanting to send stuff for the kids. But so that was the thing that resonated. It's like, man, after all this, and then might just have to be single. So I said, okay, if this is your will, I'm ready for it. If you want me to just be single, then I'm okay with it. And like I said, my friend said He knows the desires of your heart, and I thought, well, okay, we'll see what happens. And it's that when you least expect it, that's really the best thing. I can never say that enough. It's when you least expect it. Now you might have a feeling that something will happen, because before I met you, my friend at work was saying, well, what if your partner, you and him click, and you start talking. And I thought, like, why would that happen? That's like such a fairy tale or from a movie. Like, who would that's too cliche. I thought that's what I was thinking. That's too cliche, come on. And but yeah, I mean, you can say the rest is history, but we only know our history, so I guess we got to elaborate on that.
Yeah, I think we should at some point take time to just like lay out the whole history.
How we met. Yeah.
It's kind of a succinct but still like detailed way.
But this is we're just laying the grounds for how we met, how we were before we met.
Yeah, and I think that's a testament, a testimony, however you want to call it, to anyone who, if you're at the point where you're going to choose between what you really want out of life versus what the Joneses dictate, keeping up with the Joneses, because it's crazy that, as you said, well, it's not crazy to me now. Looking back on it, I was kind of wondering after so many people told me it was crazy. But when I was telling people, like, people would ask me, and I would tell them, no, I want someone that, I would love for it to be like when we're together, it'll be just her and me, like for the first time or whatnot. I would love to be with someone who actually, this was, when I told you, like, I was in relationships before we met. This was literally like one of the young ladies I was, talking to told me I was crazy for saying this. But I said, when I was younger, tried to live my life in a way that my future wife would be okay with. And that I was hoping to find someone that had done the same. And she was like, how in the world could someone live for someone they'd never met? You're crazy. Like, that's, she told me that was certifiably crazy. And I was like, dang, am I? Because a lot of people have told me that, like, how are you going to, like, once you pass 28, you're not going to find someone that doesn't have kids. You're not going to find someone that hasn't been, been around the block a lot or whatever. And that no, nothing, to each his or her own. I don't have a problem with that for whoever is good with that. That just wasn't what I preferred at the time. And so it's not about that. My point isn't about that per se. It's about whatever it is that you're looking for in a relationship, in a spouse, in career, or whatever it is. Don't set your sights, don't set your standard on what people tell you is crazy or is possible. I mean, if you really want what you want out of life and not just what someone else dictates, you better figure that out for yourself and be, resolute in your stand on that and go for that and believe for that. Because you checked off 10 out of 10 things on the list, wow. And I wasn't even. I told our friends, our common friends, don't set me up. Like, don't set me up with anyone. Don't do that. I tried to sabotage the the day of. So God had to be the one that was like, okay, now you're trying to mess things up, but I'm gonna fix this because this is my will. And I was willing. I had submitted myself to God even beyond my own. I told God that
beyond your own understanding,
beyond my own agenda, even if I'm, I want to do your will, not mine. Yeah. He made, like you said, the rest is history. He created that history. So.
Yeah, definitely that surrendering yourself, that was the hard part. I think I had to, reading that part, that chapter, oh man, that break me is like, what? After all this, I'm just gonna have to be single anyway, and I couldn't accept it. And then finally, it's like, I'm just gonna finish the book, and then because you do have to pray. I think, if I'm not mistaken, you have to pray every time you read the chapter, or there's some scriptures in there. But yeah, that was tough, but
worth it.
But it was, yeah, definitely. You're worth it.
You cow.
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I think this has been a pretty good intro episode, or Yeah. I mean, we're no breakfast club, but right. But this is, I mean, we're doing this for ourselves because I think it does help us kind of open up, reminisce on the stuff that we've done, things that we've done before, and kind of put things in perspective on how things are, and be grateful with everything we've had now, we have now. So yeah, I agree. This is a good introduction. Well, not only that, with all of this, with what we do, like the recordings and documenting that we do individually, with what we do, we talk about development with real estate, everything else. All this stuff is us solving problems in real life, in real time, and being an open book about it. If nothing else, like you said, we can look back on it and reflect on it, but at the same time, after burying a lot of grandparents, and we know time is finite, and so one of the things I think of now is like, man, I'm Katie Lee Dixon raised me. She was probably the person I spent the most time with in the world out of anybody, up until the point, till I was 18 and I graduated. And now I'm hard pressed sometimes to remember what her voice sounds like, and to just remember everything about how she was. And so we don't have to do that anymore. It was different back then. They didn't have as much technology, but I want my great grandkids to know who I was. They need to know who we were, know what we sounded like, what we looked like, understand how they got to the point where they're at, and know exactly what we thought firsthand. They shouldn't have to wonder, like, what was he like? What was she like? They'll be able to look on this and see this is what, this is where our life, stems from. This is the stuff they dealt with. This is how they overcame it. We'll leave a blueprint for them. I mean, things will be so different by then, but I mean, if it wasn't relevant, we wouldn't still be reading history books nowadays in search of solutions for how to solve problems that we're dealing with now. I mean, Dr. King was reading about Gandhi. I don't know if that was like how different of time period that was from Gandhi to his time period, but he read about Gandhi, and that's how he brought about the civil rights movement. And now we're reading. That's Dr. King was the '60s, so that was like almost 60 years ago, and a lot of his practices, and John Lewis and other great people, Cesar Chavez, the what's his name, the Filipino
Yeah.
worker in California who did some great work.
Where was Cesar Chavez?
Yeah.
Cesar Chavez. That's
Yeah.
not really say it.
So obviously, blueprints and patterns and examples, some of them last, they're eternal. Oh man, that's crazy. It's picking up audio. I didn't even call my phone to wake up, and it's just listening in on us.
Government's listening on us.
Yeah, but anyway, so this will be some timeless information that our great grandkids can look back on, and whatever.
By the way, my husband is an exennial. I'm technically a millennial, but I might be a little bit exennial. My husband, for sure, he's born in 80.
Yeah.
I'm born in 82. So
Yeah.
our legacy is that I did not eat Tide Pods.
Yeah. I'm borderline millennial, but for sure exennial. And like I tell you, I use my
They're probably gonna laugh at us. It's like, what the heck is an exennial? What the heck is a millennial? Like, what?
Yeah.
Oh man, they sound so old. Okay, exennial.
Yeah,
That's what
probably
they're gonna say later on.
like we're calling people boomers
Hopefully.
nowadays.
But I really do like.
I don't really call people boomer.
No, I don't either. But we don't. Yeah, when you mentioned that your grandmother's voice, and I think it's only what you think you remember, and I can't really tell you honestly what she sounds like. Like, I just remember the last thing she told us was, I'm not going to see my grandkids anymore. And I'm trying to remember how she sounded like when she said that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is definitely a great way for us to leave our legacy for our kids to find out, hey, what's happening in 2020, which, by the way, is people are saying it's the worst year ever. But, we make the most of this year. And that's probably another topic to talk about because there's a lot going on in 2020.
I mean, people say worst year ever, but I mean,
2020 was good to us.
Yeah.
It was a challenging year, but it was good to us.
Well, and the other thing is too, like, I probably wouldn't want to live in a time period when they were like openly lynching people, like people were wearing their Sunday best to go watch human beings be lynched.
But the only difference is that it's out in public, though.
Yeah.
Before it was probably not even broadcasted anywhere.
Back then.
You just hear say, and then you're like, where did you hear that? Did you really hear that from somebody?
Well, then there's the whole slavery thing too. So it's hard for me to fathom 2020 being the worst year.
Yeah, can you imagine back, like in 20 years, people are gonna be like, that never really happened. That video is not real. And then it's like, we have a video. You know how people are trying to say that Holocaust never happened, and it's like, but there's people that experience it, so you can't really say
with
that.
Tattoos on their arms, yeah.
And that, I mean, even now, honestly, like even now, by the way, 2020 is when the coronavirus. Well, actually, it was 2019 when it was starting to happen.
Yeah.
But what is it called? COVID-19, which is the strain of a virus that it was the H1N1, I think, right? Yeah. So it's in 2020, and this is the main thing that happened in 2020, which is the pandemic happened, and people are not allowed to go outside for a certain time. But where I was going with this is that people are even saying that it's not real, and we got people that died from this, but people are still saying it's not real. So the fact that there's evidence and people are trying to say that it's not true.
Yeah.
And this is that same year. So
well,
hopefully
it's better. But now some people cling to comfort, though. Some people would rather discount truth and reality than like be shaken up out of the comfort zone. So
you're right.
Yeah. Like COVID's going on. There's a massive. I think there's some people are saying like the largest civil rights protests in history.
Was this year?
Yeah, well, I mean, they're international, and there's
You know what? That's true. Like actually, other countries are joining in instead of just That's true.
Yeah, and there are people that instead of facing the truth and saying that we do have an issue with race here, they'd rather discount that. They'd rather say there's no issue with race, like anything to cling on to their just kind of comfort level and ability or whatever.
So Rich and Emmy, or Emmy Rich essay would be talking about. We'll have politics as well. We'll have talking about marriage, talking about home ownership, marriage counseling. Um, you know, we'll talk about faith and how that helped us to get where we are.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. All of it.
And Olivia and Joseph, if you're listening to this, y'all better be responsible.
Don't squander this hard work.
And accountable.
Yeah, y'all are. We're trying to give y'all a good platform. So I'm sure y'all are good kids. Y'all are gonna figure it out and do something spectacular with your lives.
Yeah, that's right.
So.
And did we do anything spectacular with our lives, or are we just doing?
Did we do anything spectacular with our lives?
Best?
I mean, I don't
say so.
I don't. Yeah, I mean, like I don't. But like I don't really get caught up in those.
What is spectacular anyway?
Like what's good, what's bad. Like what is considered success. To me, success is being able to be, dictate the time we spend together, being able to be at all of our kids' events, except that one when I got in trouble with you for taking off to Corpus for her. Yeah, but I mean, other than that, I've been able to establish a career, that's brought in money to go along with the career that you've established, which is, really tremendous. At the same time, we've never needed a babysitter. We've never needed daycare because my schedule has been flexible enough.
We never needed daycare.
Yeah, for our date nights, we definitely, thank God, shout out to the parents, to the grandparents.
The uncles and aunts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tita Mark, Tita Sheena, Ninong Rob at times.
Ninong Rob.
Yeah.
Tito Kuya and Tito Wesley.
Yep.
Our moms.
Yeah, for sure.
Our
dad, yeah. Lolo. And we definitely have needed those times when we could just slip off and have a date night. Never, regardless of how crazy things get, regardless of how full our schedules get, how full your schedule gets as a married couple, you've got to prioritize.
You think it takes a village to raise a kid, but I think it takes a village for a family to raise. Like they just think about the kids, but really it's the whole family. Because if it takes a village to raise a kid, then probably that's so the mom and dad can go on a date.
Yeah,
and have alone time.
That's true. I mean, because we're not getting to, and we were never at a threat of that because I don't think there's ever been a time where we just wanted to be away from each other. We haven't spent a night apart since we've been married, and I'm grateful for that. I've never not wanted to be around you. And one of the things that I wouldn't want to see is, or like I hate to see for anybody, and we definitely aren't going to see that for ourselves, is, like the situation where you're just sticking around for the kids' sake, like you've lost that connection or whatever. And like you're the only reason you're together is for some reason outside of y'all truly, investing in each other and just investing in your relationship and being sold out and, in love, or not even in love, but just, that's one of the facets of it, in love, or I don't know. I'm trying to say, like, not just being in there together for anything outside of, your relationship, and so I think that's why it's important for us, like when you say like a village raising a child, or needing a village for a family to develop, we can't really do much for our kids if we're, just in it until they graduate. Like we're gonna hold this together until they graduate and then we're out. But we're not developing with each other. We're not growing and developing together. Then it's probably going to be a rough. It's going to be a strain on the kids and the family dynamic in general.
And we're in that generation too that probably in both our families, first time in our family where I don't know but my side of family, anybody who's been in counseling, but I think I would probably say in my generation, might be the first one to want to do counseling for myself.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And that's something that's another topic we can also discuss with this podcast that we started with our marriage counseling. I think every married couple do need counseling, but it's more of don't get marriage counseling because you're already having problems. I think we were discussing doing that before we got married. Remember we were trying to do counseling, but we never just did it. And then I think we kind of waited a little bit too late. But where we are, we're learning as we're going. But in my generation, I probably am the first one to do counseling. Maybe my younger brother might have done a little bit, but he didn't really pursue it more. But it's one of those where I think every single person, it helps talk about mental health. So that's one of the things that we encourage to. I think it's that time already where you ask for help when you need it. You don't just take it upon yourself to do everything on your own.
Right.
As much as the way it is right now with technology, I think this is the right time to just, the right time for checking yourself, mental health, checking yourself, make sure that your mental health is being taken care of, so that when you go into a relationship or marriage, that you know yourself, you know how it is, and that so that when you take on another person's life, like you're taking on their everything, your culture, whether you understand their culture or whether you understand how they are, that's another thing that you have to to deal with. And we're going as we go along with this marriage. So definitely that's one of the things too that would be beneficial to this podcast for us, I think. Right.
I agree.
That wine's got me, by the way.
No, well, that's good. Wine, cheese, and chit chat.
I finished the wine before you went to the restroom, and
I'm nursing it, which is ironic because we're wearing each other's shirts. Like, not each other's shirts per se.
Yeah.
But yeah,
you have a stethoscope shirt, and I have.
You got my Wink Wildcats on. Middle school, West Texas. I've never been a nurse in my life, but I'm wearing your actually your occupation.
Is it a nurse? Okay, I was like, okay, because there was like an issue last year. I was like, I thought that was only for doctors.
Stethoscopes?
Yeah, remember that?
Oh yeah, that's
from the View. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was the whole, like, you don't take on a nurse. You don't do that to nurses because they're gonna come together and
show the doctors where
I still say at work, like, I'm not a doctor. They'll say, like, well, you're the doctor, you know better. It's like, I'm not a doctor, I'm a nurse.
I'm not a rapper. But I'm not a rapper.
I'm not a rapper, though. I'm not a rapper, though.
Yep.
All right, so we can wrap this up. So this is just an introduction, kind of get us used to talking. I mean, we covered a lot of stuff, but there's definitely a lot to cover, and we probably need to write this down.
Maybe this could be the first season. I mean, all we have to do is play this. I think we've pretty much touched on everything we want to talk about, so this could, when we go down the line of this session right here and just talk on every topic individually,
So I do have a topic that I do want to talk about next time we.
What is it?
Well, we kind of mentioned it that there's not a lot of we did mention it, so I don't know if we still need to deal with it. But the reason why we're doing podcasts, which is not a lot of. I don't see a lot of Filipina married and African descent that's talking about, like, hey, this is real life. This is how they deal with culture and life here in the U.S.
Yeah, it's not just a flowery bed of roses or whatever, a flowery bed of ease.
But there's a lot of, like, I have friends that are that have that same experience, but they don't have podcasts, so that's the reason why I'm like, okay, I'm shy, but
Yeah.
I think I'll be okay with the little wine.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
No.
Liquid courage.
Yeah.
Is what they call it. Liquid courage is what it's called.
I like it.
But we don't always have to be drinking wine because, during the day we'll probably business like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when we talk with Mr. Heath, when we talk with Bert, we're talking with different people.
Yeah.
And we'll be sober minded. I mean, we're sober minded now.
We're not drunk though.
Yeah. We're not. Don't,
No, we're not.
That's not why we're taking marriage counseling.
Well, some people drink coffee in the morning, and that's like something that a person would call. You can't get addicted to coffee.
Caffeine, all the caffeine. Yeah.
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 Anyway, all right.
All right. Well,
Next time.
Till the next time.
Do we have something that we say towards the end?
Cállate ni todo. I mean, I don't know if
Um,
follow us for more videos at Emmy Rich and SA.
Yep.
Got a YouTube channel. And this is just the first of many. So if you have suggestions for topics, leave them in the comments. We'd appreciate y'all's feedback. And in the future, when we have people on, or if we have people on this series, and you want more information from them, make sure you say so in the comments as well, and we'll get that information to you.
right.
All right. Paalam.
Paalam. Very nice.
Cool.
Good job, Asawa.
Good job.
Whew.